welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling one of the most underrated safety components in your car.
Definitely. It's that one system we all use but maybe don't fully understand.
I'm talking about the handbrake. That thing most of us only think about when we, forget to release it and smell something burning.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we've pulled together the full stack of sources for you.
Mm.
Our whole mission here is to get you beyond just knowing how to pull the lever.
Right.
We want you to really understand the mechanics, the risks, and some of the surprising reasons why you should probably be using it every single time you park.
And we have to start with the name, because our sources were all over the place.
They really were.
Emergency brake, parking brake, e-brake, brake handle. I mean, it goes on.
It all refers to the same thing, though. An independent system. For now, let's maybe stop calling it the emergency brake and just focus on what it does 99% of the time. Holding the car still.
Good idea. Let's start there. So how does it actually work?
Well, the most important thing to get is its independence. Your main foot brake, that's the complex hydraulic system.
Fluid and pistons, all that stuff.
Right. The handbrake. It's almost entirely mechanical. It's a really robust, old-school backup.
So if I say, lose all my brake fluid, and my main brakes are just gone, this handbrake system is still good to go.
That is the whole point of its design. It operates completely on its own, usually engaging only the rear wheels.
And it does that with a cable, right? Not fluid.
Exactly. A heavy steel cable. When you pull that lever or, press the button in a modern car, you're physically pulling that cable tight.
And that tension is what does the work.
Correct. The cable forces the brake shoes or pads directly against the drum or the rotor. It locks those wheels in place. But the key thing to remember is that it's designed for holding power, not really stopping power.
That makes sense. But hang on, why always the rear wheels? The front brakes do most of the work when you're driving.
That's true, but think about parking on a hill. If you only lock the front wheels, the whole back end of the car could, pivot.
So it would be unstable.
Very. Locking the rear wheels gives you much better directional stability when you're stationary.
Okay, that clears that up. Now, something came up in the sources that I think a lot of us with a classic manual lever need to hear. It's about that ratchet sound.
The click, click, click.
Yeah, that sound.
Yeah.
The sources say there's a better way to do it.
There is. That clicking is the ratchet mechanism engaging to hold the lever. The better way is to hold down the release button while you pull the lever up.
So you pull it up silently.
You pull it up silently, and then when you feel the right amount of tension, you just let the button go.
Why, though? Is it just to save wear and tear on that little ratchet part?
That's part of it, for sure, but it also gives you way more tactile control over the tension, and, maybe more importantly, it means you can release it much faster if you need to, like on a tricky hill start. No fumbling with the button.
That idea of tactile control is interesting because that's exactly what we're losing with new tech, which is a perfect lead-in to the whole manual versus electronic showdown, the EPB, the electronic parking brake.
Right. The manual system is so simple. You've got a lever, a cable, and the brake shoes. It's almost immune to electrical faults, which is its biggest strength.
But it takes up space in the console, and that cable can stretch.
It can. And then you have the EPB, that little button, often with a P in a circle. It's so neat and tidy.
So what's actually happening when I push that little switch? What's the car's computer, the ECU, doing?
So instead of that physical cable, the button just sends an electronic signal to the ECU. The ECU then tells these little electric motors to apply the rear brakes.
But there are tiny motors back there.
Yeah, you'll either have a motor that just pulls on the existing brake cable, or in more advanced systems, the motor is built right into the brake caliper itself.
That sounds a lot more complex.
Oh, it is. The upside is convenience and cool features like automatic hill hold, and you get all that space back in your center console.
But the downside is cost and complexity if it breaks.
Absolutely. You've gone from maybe replacing a cheap stretched cable to diagnosing a system with sensors and motors and an ECU. It's a different world.
But what's really fascinating is how that EPB is integrated. It's not just for parking anymore. It's part of the car's brain.
100%. The sources really highlighted the automation. It can engage itself when you turn the car off and then disengage when you buckle up and tap the gas.
That's pretty smart.
But here's the really interesting part. If you pull that EPD button while you're driving fast in an emergency, the ECU is smart enough not to just lock the wheels.
Oh, wow.
It will actually modulate the braking, often using the ABS system, to bring you to a controlled stop.
So in a weird way, the electronic version is actually safer in an emergency than yanking on the old mechanical lever.
It potentially is, yes, because the computer prevents that dangerous rear wheel lockup. But you do lose that direct physical feeling of control. It's a real shift in philosophy.
Okay, so let's shift to the main reason we have this thing. We know it's for parking, but the sources laid out a few other key times you need to use it.
Right. It's not just for when you're leaving the car for good. You should be using it for temporary stops on a hill or when you're, say, changing a tire.
Or loading something heavy.
Exactly, or towing. But the biggest one is just the daily habit. Always engage it when you leave the vehicle.
Which brings us to the big question, especially for automatic drivers. If I'm putting the car in park, do I really need the handbrake?
This is maybe the most valuable piece of information we found. The answer is yes, absolutely, and the reason is to protect your transmission.
How so?
When you put an automatic in park, you're engaging a small metal pin. It's called the parking pawl.
The parking pawl. And that little thing holds the entire weight of the car.
It does. It slots into a gear in the transmission to stop it from turning. Now, if you're on a slope and you shift into park before using the handbrake,
All the weight of the car is resting on that one little pin.
the entire 2 tons or whatever it is hanging on that pawl. If you've ever felt that big clunk when you shift out of park on a hill,
Oh yeah, I know that sound.
that's the sound of the pawl being violently yanked out from under load. It's not good for it.
So what's the right way to do it? The transmission-saving way?
Okay, so you come to a stop with your foot on the brake. First, shift into neutral.
Neutral, okay.
Then, pull the handbrake up firmly. Let your foot off the main brake so the car's weight settles onto the handbrake system.
All right, so the handbrake is now holding the car.
Exactly. Then you shift into park and turn off the engine. That way, the pawl just slides into place as a backup with no load on it at all.
That's a tiny change in habit that could save you thousands in transmission repairs down the line.
It really could. And speaking of slopes, even a good handbrake isn't always enough on a really steep hill.
You need to combine methods for safety.
You have to. Use the handbrake, put it in park or in gear, and, this is crucial, turn your front wheels the right way.
Remind us of the rule for that.
Simple. If you're facing uphill, turn the wheels away from the curb.
So they'll roll back into it.
Exactly. And if you're facing downhill, turn them toward the curb. The idea is that if anything fails, the curb will stop the car from rolling into traffic.
Essential stuff. Okay, let's talk about misuse. We've all done it, driven off with the handbrake still on a little bit. What's actually happening when we ignore that warning light?
Well, the first thing is you're just fighting against yourself. The engine has to work harder so your fuel economy tanks.
Sure.
But the real danger is heat. The friction from driving against the brake will overheat your pads and rotors very, very quickly.
And when they overheat, that causes brake fade.
Brake fade, exactly. The material literally cooks and loses its ability to create friction. You might smell a really distinct burning odor.
That horrible acrid smell.
Yep. And you might hear squealing or grinding. If you keep going, you can warp your rotors and cause some seriously expensive damage.
Okay, now for the scenario that gives the system its other name. Emergency braking. Foot pedal goes to the floor, main brakes are gone. You have to use the handbrake while moving.
This is a scenario that requires extreme caution. You have to remember, you're only braking the rear wheels.
And critically, the handbrake is separate from the ABS, the anti-lock braking system.
That's the huge danger here. ABS is what keeps your wheels from locking up so it can still steer. If you just yank that mechanical handbrake lever up at 60 miles an hour,
You're going to lock the rear wheels.
you will instantly lock the rear wheels, bypass the ABS entirely, and the back end of the car will skid out. You'll spin. It's a total loss of control.
So if the worst happens, what's the actual protocol?
You have to stay calm, keep the car pointing straight, and pull that lever up gradually. Slowly and steadily. The goal is to apply just enough brake force to slow down without locking the wheels.
It's a fine line.
It is. And at the same time, you should be using engine braking. Downshifting through the gears to let the engine help slow you down.
A slow, controlled pull combined with downshifting. Man, that really shows how much we depend on our main brakes.
It really does. Which brings us to maintenance. Let's start with a common one. You pull the handbrake up, but the car still rolls a bit. Why?
Well, assuming you've pulled it up far enough, it's probably wear and tear.
It is. The number one cause is a stretched handbrake cable. Over time, that steel cable just loses a bit of its tension.
And that's when you notice the lever travel gets really high, right? You have to pull it way up to get it to bite.
Exactly. It feels loose or sloppy. It often just needs a simple adjustment to tighten the cable, But it could also be a sign of worn-out brake pads or shoes in the back.
Okay. What about the warning light? We know it comes on when the brake is engaged, but what if it stays on after you've released it?
That is a big red flag. It needs immediate attention. Now, it could be a simple faulty switch, but that same light.
The one with the exclamation point in the circle?
Yeah, that one. In most cars, it's also the warning light for low brake fluid.
And low brake fluid means you probably have a leak in your main hydraulic system.
Yeah.
That's a huge safety issue.
It's a massive issue. If that light stays on, you need to pull over safely and check your fluid or just get it to a mechanic right away.
Last thing here, cold weather. The handbrake can actually freeze on, can it?
It can. Moisture from slush or snow gets into the cable housing or the brake parts themselves, and then it freezes solid overnight.
And if you try to force it?
You can snap the cable or damage the mechanism. The best prevention if you're expecting a hard freeze is to just not use it. Rely on leaving the car in park or in gear.
What if it's already feels so?
Don't force it. Let the car run for a while to warm up, or try gently rocking the car back and forth to break the ice.
So for general maintenance, when should we get this looked at?
It should be part of every regular brake inspection, so, every 10 or 15,000 miles. But honestly, the second you feel it getting loose or needing more effort, that's the system telling you it needs a checkup.
A properly adjusted handbrake is not optional. It's a critical safety system.
Non-negotiable.
All right, that was a fantastic deep dive. Let's just quickly recap the big takeaways. First, the handbrake is your independent mechanical rear wheel backup.
Crucially, use it before shifting an automatic into park bill. You've got to save that little parking pawl.
And in a real emergency, remember, pull it gradually and steadily to avoid locking those rear wheels.
What really stands out to me from all this is the evolution of control. We started with this purely mechanical lever where you could feel the tension. You had that direct, tactile feedback.
Right.
And now we have the electronic parking brake, the EPB, which handles it all for you. It's automated, convenient, and arguably even safer in some emergencies.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. As our cars automate more of these physical tasks, does losing that tactile feedback, that feeling of the cable tightening, change how we think about these safety systems? Do we lose a certain connection or respect for the forces at play, even if the result is technically better?
Something to mull over.
Definitely food for thought. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Drive safe, everyone, and use that handbrake.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.